All right, it's midweek on the Ourlads Football Network, and after the first full weekend of football, we had some key results, including Oklahoma's win at Columbus in college football, and big rookie performances in the NFL from players like Kareem Hunt, Kenny Golladay, Cooper Kupp, and Dalvin Cook, all in winning efforts. We'll discuss those topics and much more as the OFN on PSN starts right now. All right, so week one is officially in the books, and thank goodness for that because that means football's back. There's a lot to digest from the first week, and my co-host is going to help me with all of it. So, Dan Shanka, welcome to the program. And I guess the first question, what's your biggest take from the first weekend of college football?
Well, I tell you, Oklahoma's for real. I mean, and so is Baker Mayfield. It's kind of funny on Twitter. People out there talking about this new coach, Lincoln Riley, doesn't look real organized and this and that. And I'm just sitting back there waiting just to, let this thing play out. And at halftime, they came out smoking, and Ohio State didn't have an answer. So, I think that Clemson made, some good strides. Their defense was awesome. I think that was the big thing. You look around the country and, hey, who had the best defensive efforts and things. And, Clemson certainly holding Auburn, virtually not only, they got 6 points out of it, but they didn't get much movement. And Clemson's defense, especially their front, is awesome. It'd be interesting to see, how they lost, quite a bit on offense.
Yeah.
So, but boy, their hands are going to be full of Louisville. I just think, Louisville's, just got so much explosiveness there. I don't, although, hey, to me, when defense meets offense, defense wins most of them.
Usually,
so
yeah.
I guess we'll see. It'll be a big game.
Yeah, I look at it as more of, I think the reason I'm siding with Louisville is just more because not only are they at home, but they're in a revenge spot. So I kind of like that. Otherwise, I think if it was flipped, if Louisville had won last year, even if this game was on the road, I'd probably go with Clemson. So I kind of, just like I went with Oklahoma last week. I like the revenge spot with the big matchups. Odds statistically are in your favor. That you'll get a split. It's just the way it is. But with this kid Austin Bryant, because when you look at this defensive line, you're going to talk about Christian Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence first. You're going to even talk about Farrell. I didn't think we were going to talk about Austin Bryant, and he had 4 sacks. So where's this guy coming from?
Yeah, no, well, here's the thing. They're blocking Wilkins, and they're blocking the other guys, and so hey, now you got the free runner, and you have to beat Bryant, and Bryant is making hay out there. So like you said, he's a junior. He just kind of broke on the scene with Wilkins tearing stuff up, and Lawrence being a hammer inside, and they're just so. Yeah, but hey, when you can't block everybody, or you can't double team everybody, so somebody's going to be free, and they decided to let Bryant come free, and he made him pay.
Yeah, I think that might have even only been like his second career start. Not that he hasn't, like you said, he's been around a few years as a rotation player. So, hey, you never know when these guys are going to break out in college. That's what's so great about. It's why, as we talked the last couple of weeks, and we were talking about the first booklet that you're going to have available in a couple of weeks for the 2018 draft. You kind of want to wait a little bit for the first few weeks of the season. You want to know which players like Austin Bryant, guys like that, or where they're coming from. You just never know whether it could be transfers, could be freshmen, and sometimes it's guys that ride the bench for a couple of years like Bryant that all of a sudden become household names. So, but is Wilkins, if he were to come out, is because Lawrence is a sophomore, and I believe he's a true sophomore.
Yeah.
So Wilkins comes out. What kind of a slot is he?
Well, I think he's going to actually come out at one of the strongest positions because defensive tackles are going to be one of the strongest positions in this particular draft. Like I said, we talk about it's early, obviously,
sure.
But and then the other thing I was going to mention earlier that you were talking about. See, these guys, all the juniors that come out every year and things. You don't know what these other guys behind them are going to do, like the Bryants and what have you, and then they come out and they explode. But Wilkins is going to be up there. He's going to be, one of the top guys. I was kind of disappointed with Nadi from Florida State. The first game, he was all right, but then you got V up at Washington, and so there's going to be Hurst. I really like from Michigan. I liked him last year.
Yep.
He was a rotate guy last year. Payne at Alabama, but that's going to be one of the strongest positions. I think right now, Greg, early on, and from what he did last year, you'd have Wilkins probably in the top 3 of the defensive tackles.
Okay.
And it just depends on your scheme and, exactly what you're looking for. But it's a strong position, and he's going to be one of the strongest position in the draft.
Yeah, more bad news then if that's going to be a strong position in the draft for the NFL offensive lineman. Because I want to throw this in there. I mean, seriously, what is going on with the offensive line talent in the NFL? I mean, you look around at some of these teams, and we know Seattle. But, I mean, Green Bay loses Balaga for 1 week, and Aaron Rodgers is running all over the place. Even though Seattle's got a good defense, I get it. But it just seems like there are so many teams with offensive line issues. What's gone on with the talent? I mean, why aren't is it reciprocal? In 5 years it'll change? Or are you seeing something going on in the industry where these offensive line kids either aren't developing properly or maybe they're not trying out anymore? I don't know what's going on.
No, Greg, I think it's not cyclical. The problem is the only way things are going to get better is CBA change, because the guy, the collective bargaining agreement I think that's increased the injuries also to the players because they're not in football playing shape. They're in great shape. They work out and they do it, but it's different. When you start getting hit, it's a whole different ball game. And then the coaches, there's some great offensive line coaches. Hey, there's a great offensive line coach at the New York Giants, and I feel terrible for him because, first of all, he can't work, in the off season with these guys. They have such little preparation time prior to the season, and his talent is, there's 3 guys there that legitimately are, first team NFL type caliber linemen. Bobby Hart at right tackle, it's beyond me. Bobby's a good rotate guy, backup guy, to me, but he's starting at right tackle for him. Hey, Flowers is out of position at left. I liked Rich Berg. I liked him in college. I liked him, at center. And then Jerry, they've been trying to get rid of him for 10 years, and then they keep him around. So I don't know, what the deal is there. So what I'm saying is they've got a great offensive line coach, but, and plus they haven't drafted anybody to help that position.
That's
but
true.
They stack all their money on defense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the other thing is you got 32 teams out there that are struggling on their offensive line.
Yeah.
They say Dallas. Well, I want to tell you something. If when they had last year's offensive line, they didn't struggle as bad. But I'm telling you what, if Chaz Green can do anything for them at guard, I might get out of this altogether because all he's been is hurt and he's not that good a blocker. And he had the other day on TV, he has a nice pull, and I hear, Collins were saying, well, that's a real nice block. He barely nicked him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not a block. You're not putting your hat on his outside shoulder and pinning him inside. What you're doing is you're elbowing him, and so. No, Greg, the only way that offensive line play is going to get better is they've got to change the rules and let these guys practice more and play against live people, not dummies and things. And they, because eventually what it does, it's going to kill your quarterbacks, the big money guys.
Yep.
And the techniques, you can't. It's just like, okay, we're going to go ahead and let this doctor be a brain surgeon, but all he's going to ever work on, you're not going to get near cadavers. We're just going to go ahead and have him cut open oranges and watermelons. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then when he gets into the operating room, I don't know if I want him operating on me. You know what I mean?
True.
But we're same thing we're doing with offensive line. They don't have the work, and they're out there pretending to block.
Well, maybe they'll figure that out, and I guess they got a few years, but that's unfortunate. It might take a few years because you look at the game.
Greg, I don't mean to interrupt, but the other thing is in college now, you look at these offensive linemen with the exception of, say, Iowa, Wisconsin, Alabama, Stanford, Michigan. those guys will come off the ball 3-point stance with a low flat back, just
Oh yeah.
like we used to do.
Yep,
Okay,
that's
now
true.
the guy stands straight up. The other teams, because they're screen blocking, in the spread offense, and that's all they got to do. Screen a guy off. If he goes outside, you wheel him and you screen him off. He comes inside, you step with your inside foot and you cut him off. So, I mean, that's the other problem. Now, the NFL coaches aren't getting, finished or not finished, but, a product that they can work on and then get them on the field. So, yeah, there's all kinds of problems out there.
Yeah, it's the same thing that we've talked about, of course, more. I mean, you hear more about it with the quarterback situation with the spread offenses and how it takes a while for these quarterbacks to adjust at the pro game. Well, that's what's going on with the offensive linemen as well. And Clemson's defense was really good. I don't know how much you can blame and say, well, Auburn, is their offensive line that bad? But I will say this, and then look, I've tried to find some information on why Auburn why Gus Malzahn felt it was so important to just basically, it seemed to me like hand the job to Stidham, because look, I didn't think Sean White played all that well in his first year. But I looked at him last year and I was surprised. I was like, wait, wow, okay, that looks pretty good. And a matter of fact, at one point last year with Auburn, after they had struggled the first few weeks, they went on that roll. And then you said to yourself, you know what? If they just keep winning and they knock off Alabama, they're going to be in an SEC title game. And then they had that game against Georgia when he got hurt. And once he got hurt, and then they had to play the other guy who was terrible, Johnson. He was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't move the ball. So I'm thinking, that's all right. Next year, I'm going to keep an eye on him. They get White back. White's the backup. What's this need to have Stidham in there? And he was awful. I mean, he was terrible. I can understand, okay, it was Baylor, but that's a different offense in a way, and what they're doing at Auburn. So why force feed Stidham with Auburn's offense when White was perfectly fine last year?
Yeah, no, I tell you what, coaches make mistakes just like doctors make mistakes, and like everybody makes. I mean, coaches, sometimes they get something in their head, and they don't look at what's in front of them. They think this guy is better, or they think he's going to do, and then the excuse is, well, we're at practice every day, and we see him every day.
Oh yeah, well, I hate that one. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I know one thing. We see their product on the field, and
yeah.
I guess they're not seeing what everybody else is seeing, because that's why you get fired. Because you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. But no, their offensive line. Now, Braden Smith, the right guard, number 71. I was watching that Auburn's offensive line. He was the only one that was really doing anything to, plug the dike up front. I mean, he was walling people a little bit and stuff like that, but still, and Gus wants to run the ball. That's what I can't understand. They think they'd be a little better at run blocking and things too, and they're kind of a disaster at both. Used to be you couldn't do both. You couldn't be a great passing team, and you couldn't be a pass blocking team and a great run blocking team, because of the time that you spend, but now nobody's good at anything. You're not even a good run blocking team. You're not a good pass blocking team.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a bunch. Every year they have a good running back there that puts up big numbers. Look, I know Petway's a good player, but this is just like what they were doing with Stidham. By the time you get to the third and fourth quarter and your offense just keeps going 3 and out, and the running back can't find a hole, because your running back doesn't usually – your running back needs some holes, because that's the way Petway runs, and Stidham's doing nothing. He's obviously shell-shocked. Don't you think that you should go to Sean White and maybe even Kenyon Johnson and say, okay, guys, let's just go out a series and see what you guys can do?
Yep. That makes sense, but you know what? It doesn't always make sense to those coaches.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. And that's the thing that I'm going to have to deal with all year with Michigan, and Wilton Spate, who just continues to look terrible.
I know. Don't cut your wrist.
I know.
Watched him he did have some streaks last year that were acceptable, but he's still that guy that, man, hey, I'm with you. I love to see the young guys play.
Yeah, and it's not even just Peters. They love Dylan McCaffrey, Christian's little brother. Love him.
Right.
And why do you have to redshirt him? Why? Just play the kid. Just get him in there and play him. Look at all these other. I mean, there's other guys. There are other. We see this every year. We see. I mean, just look at Alabama. They almost won a national championship with a freshman. Why can't
Yep.
you play the freshmen? So I don't, but this is what you do. This is what some of these coaches do, and it frustrates you. You just, and a lot of times sometimes it takes an injury, and then the backup comes in, and you go, well, why didn't you play the backup this whole time? But it is what it is, and that's why Michigan probably won't win a national championship this year. Because I don't know. I don't see Wilton Speight turning things around the way Jake Coker did. Because Coker did nothing that year. He won a national championship until basically the end of the season and in the playoffs, and he looked like Dan Marino, or I should say Joe Namath with Alabama. What about at Oklahoma?
Well, keep in mind, there's still injury on the horizon out there for Speight. He's
Could
not
be.
real mobile.
Yeah.
So maybe it's going to take an injury to get one of the young guys to play, because the guy behind him, O'Corn, can't play.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing as the backup either. I don't get it. Again, I watched the spring game. Everybody knew watching the spring game Brandon Peters outplayed Speight. Everybody. And yet, all we got to hear since then in practice is, this and that, and Spate's doing better, and Spate's. But how come every time we see the guys play, it looks like the other guy's doing well? So yeah, I hate the practice thing, because practice doesn't win championships. It's what you do in the games when the lights turn on. Because you've been doing this long enough to know, Dan, that there are a lot of players that don't play well in practice, but they play a lot better when the game is on.
Practice.
Yeah. We knew what his point was, and that was basically his point. It wasn't that he didn't want to practice. It's just that was his point, is that's practice. Let me go out and smoke people. All right.
Yeah.
What about Baker Mayfield? Because I asked you about Baker Mayfield about a month ago, and you had mentioned, okay, nice college quarterback. If he gets drafted, it's going to be late. Anything at all from what you saw in the Ohio State game? It's a new season. Anything at all that changes your mind that he's going to be nothing more than a fifth, sixth, seventh round draft pick?
Well, see the thing, as you know, I liked Vernon Adams, out at Oregon.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
he come in the East-West. When he got on the field, he just sparkled. I mean, and he was the most valuable player in the game, played 15 plays, threw 3 touchdowns, saw the field well, threw with a good strong arm, couldn't even get an NFL tryout.
It's
okay?
too short.
He's up in Canada now and playing well in Canada. Okay, now, and I don't have verifieds on Baker Mayfield, but he's around 6 foot, maybe maybe a hair taller, but he's right there. Okay, he's 6 foot, and he's 220 pounds, and he's got a good arm. But you have to remember now, he's throwing to a lot of wide open receivers. He didn't have to throw a lot of BBs in there.
True.
Tight, you know what I mean?
True.
And but you know what? The kid is a winner.
Yep.
And the thing that bothers me, though, it seems like I'm saying the same thing on Johnny Manziel. You go, oh, God, this kid's great on the field, but, boy, you get him off the field, what's he going to do next? And I think teams are going to look at him like that, say, well, look, hey, he does this, and he's already got, been on one police blotter, and so – what do you do? Who's going to roll the dice? Well, they may not roll the dice. They may go third round on him, or if they do take him earlier than that, they'll say, well, we vetted him, and we're comfortable with what we found out on him. But I tell you, the kid's a winner. He's accurate, makes better decisions probably on the field than he does off the field at times. And but yes, he might be, and he may be our top senior quarterback coming out in our guide that the preview for 20. He may be the top senior. That means the top, obviously we got a few others like Sam Darnold out there at Darnold up at Southern Cal and Rosen and those guys. But he's a guy that can play, and he's gonna get his chance if he doesn't screw up along the way.
I'm just going to throw this out there because you mentioned the CFL. We might have talked about this briefly before, but if I'm running the CFL, I'm seriously saying to myself, look, history's nice. We've got our own history here. We've got a certain way we play the game, but they're not making any money there. It's a dying sport up there economically. Why wouldn't it be so perfect if the CFL worked something out with the NFL? Wouldn't it be
Yep.
perfect? Especially the time of year they play doesn't really match too much with the NFL. Maybe you change a couple of rules. Maybe you change the field a little bit. I don't even know if you have to do it, but maybe you do. And let the CFL be the feeder system. They've already got a history. They've got everything in place. You don't have to start from scratch.
Right. No, I think it's been talked about. I think that, but everybody wants to be the king of the jungle, and
What do you think
they
it's
don't
more
want
of? It's more of the CFL's what? Do you think they want more? They're not. They want too much of this of what could come their way. You think, or is it more of the NFL?
I think well, I think it's both, but I don't. I think that there's private things on the table, and the NFL doesn't want to. But they got to do something about developing these players,
Yes.
because it's awful right now. And hey, when you got an investment, you better take care of your investment. Right now, the NFL's not doing that.
And CFL, that would a perfect investment opportunity for them. I mean, instead of paying guys whatever they pay, what's their highest salary guy get? Like 50,000 a year? I don't know. I mean, they don't get paid very much, do they, in the CFL?
No, they don't get paid. You're not. You got a few of the stars. The quarterbacks, things like that. Like when Flutie was up there, he made some money. Warren made some money. The guys like that. But no, for the most part, no,
they're not making anything. Yeah.
No.
So I can't imagine the owners are making any money. Nobody's making any money. So this would be a great opportunity for them to make money. But what do we know? Okay, so I wanted to ask you about a team that I'm pretty hot on, and that is South Carolina. And not just because of the fact that they've won a couple of games, and maybe well, look, they were dogs in both games. But Will Muschamp, who didn't get it going in Florida, he's got something in South Carolina, and the reason he has something in South Carolina is because offensively, he's got a quarterback in Bentley, he's got a couple of running backs, and boy, these two receivers he has. And Hayden Hurst. And by the way, I think I've seen more tight end talent in college football this year than I think I have in a long time. I don't know if you've noticed that. There's a lot of interesting tight ends in college football, and Hayden Hurst is one of them. But Deebo Samuel, this guy has been incredible for them. I mean, without this guy, they're 0-2. I'd put him like top 3 in the Heisman right now. Not that anybody else will. But what do you see out of those two guys? Because those are the most exciting guys. Hurst, because of his, I mean, they could use him in a lot of different ways. I think they even handed the ball off to him, and he ran it in against Missouri. And Samuel changed the game last week, but Missouri was beating him up. It was 10-0. Return kickoff for a touchdown by Samuel, second in 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden it's all South Carolina.
Yeah, well, the thing is that both those guys are juniors, and I guess we'll see. Samuel might have, he's a redshirt junior, but he may, like you said, because of his explosiveness that he's shown, his playmaking ability, he may end up, applying for the draft and things like that. First, again, a talented guy that, they've got a long way to go this year. Obviously 10 more games probably to see what they can do, because, some people start out fast and then they fade away. And, but, like you said, there's at least 2 more that's on the NFL radar to see what they're going to do this season.
Yeah, because I was looking at some of these. I mean, I think the one tight end that really sticks out for me, because they're my national championship pick, or at least my get to the championship game pick in Penn State, is Gesicki.
Yep.
So how good is he? Is he a top 2 or 3 tight end when he comes out?
Oh, yeah, he is. I mean, and like I said, this right now, and because he's a little bit more of a true tight end that they're looking for in the NFL. I think that, the big targeted guy like that, I tell you what, he's better than Jesse James, and Jesse James caught 2 the other day that I couldn't believe, for the Steelers.
Sure.
So, I think that, I think that Gesicki, he may end up being, like I said, if he keeps improving and they throw the ball to him, and McSorley, he'll throw the ball to anybody if they're open. So, I think that he has a definite chance of being the top guy. I like Mark Andrews from Oklahoma. He got hurt. Fumagalli changed his number because of his good friend that was injured. And he changed his jersey number, so when people are out there looking, it's a little bit different. But Hurst could squeeze in there somewhere for South Carolina. But I'll tell you what, now there's a heck of a tight end up at South Dakota State, Dallas Gogurt, that is 6'4" and about 260, and he can run and he can catch everything. So
Okay.
there's going to be some guys out there that are going to make some serious moves to the tight end group, and some are going to be those juniors like Hurst.
Yeah, I know we got to wait another year for him to come out, but we talked about Fant from Iowa last week, and if it wasn't for a couple of overthrows by Stanley, he might have caught 2 big touchdown passes. So
Yep.
he looks like he's going to be a good one, Fant.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's up and comer guy, and one thing I do like, Brian Ferentz, the offensive coordinator now. I mean, he's not afraid. He's going to control the ball. He wants to run because he's an offensive line coach and stuff like that in his heart. But hey, they did a great job throwing and then coming back and beating Iowa State. That was a great football game the other day.
Oh yeah, that was probably the best game of the whole week. Was that
Yep.
Iowa State game? Poor Iowa State, always the bridesmaids. Okay.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, Campbell's doing a really
Yep.
good job there, and they're going to be heard from. I guarantee you, because they got some tools, they got some receivers, they got the running backs, he really did a nice job at Toledo as head coach, and
Yes.
I think that he works. Hey, what he does, he has got a great scheme, and he's getting players to run that scheme.
Yep, they're going to be competitive, and if they're going to have a good season, they better beat Akron this week on the road. By the way, I actually think 2 of the academies are going to play well against the behemoths of the Big Ten. I wouldn't be surprised if Air Force gave Michigan a tough game, and especially after Cincinnati gave them a tough game, and with Wilton Spade at quarterback, and you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State had a hangover, and the Army game was a little bit closer, at least maybe for half, maybe into the third quarter.
Well, you know what usually wins those games is that talent at the end.
Yeah, usually. Yeah.
And the scheme that the service academies run. I mean, you don't see that all year. And you got a week to prepare for it. Now you're working on it during the preseason and some in the spring and things like that. Work on your keys because that's the key to when you're playing defense against those triple option schemes. You must stay with your keys, and you do exactly that. You can't widen too much if you're an outside linebacker because the quarterback can duck up inside you. You got to stop the inside belly play. If you don't do that, then they're going to run all day, down the middle of the field. So, and then you got to have your guys up on pitch. You've got to follow exactly things to the letter. And you have a breakdown, and it's a big play for their team. It's just. In fact, I tell you what, Greg, I absolutely hate looking at a service academy against another regular team because you don't get anything out of it because they're different the way they play, and you just don't get any. I even hate to evaluate like Georgia Tech offensive linemen. Like Mason's done a nice job up at New England, but hey, they're there, 4-point stance, come off low, cut you, and stuff like that. That's not NFL play.
Yeah, I think Air Force, of course, probably has a better of an opportunity. They had a week off also to get ready for Michigan. But yeah, Ohio State coming off a big game, you never know. Maybe those games were a little bit closer than you think. As far as we, by the way, with Clemson and Louisville, which is the biggest game of the weekend, without question, we talked a little bit about it. As far as Louisville, I know Tony Mejia, who does my show on Thursdays. We talk NFL, but I asked him for his 4 playoff teams in college football, and he put Louisville in there. On Louisville, who's there? Do they have anybody on defense that sticks out specifically? I know they got a couple of seniors that have played pretty well, Trevon Young and Stacey Thomas. So they got a few players, but I don't know. I mean, it doesn't appear that they have any standouts. So, and that's kind of why I don't really think of them as a true Final Four team. I haven't really seen anybody even this year. I mean, watched the Purdue game and the North Carolina game, and they gave up a ton of points to those teams. So I don't really. I disagree with Tony on this being a playoff team. I don't think Lamar Jackson can outscore everybody every week, and he's going to go up against a big defense this week, so that'll be huge as we talked about. But is there anybody on Louisville on defense at all that intrigues you?
Well, actually, they got a bunch of lower round late draft free agent kind of guys, but a couple that you got to keep an eye on. Is Drew Bailey, the defensive tackle.
Okay.
James Hearns, a linebacker. Chucky Williams, the safety, free safety. You got to look at those guys. They may be, those three may be in the top 150 players in the country. If they played how they finished up last year. But then they got guys the lower end there that that maybe may develop. So they're not completely shot, but they're not a rolling ball butcher knives either.
No stars. And so, yeah, I mean, because look, I mean, that's the thing about Lamar Jackson. I'm already hearing people, and I believe he's the favorite already to win the Heisman again. It's just, I just hate this award now. It's just all about stats. I mean, seriously, what did Lamar Jackson do last year except put up big stats against bad teams? And then when he played the good team, I didn't see him come. When they had that touchdown, that drive against Clemson at the end. Did they score? No, they didn't. I'm not blaming him, but it's like that's what you have to. In my mind, isn't it what you have to do to win Best Player of the Year? And if you don't win those big games, and all you're doing is putting up pinball stats that we've seen now for the last 10 years with all these big offenses, why is that so special?
Well, I think that's the $1 million question. I think that you've got. We're going to have a lot of answers to questions this weekend.
Yeah, go out and win. You want to win the Heisman because you can't lose again to Clemson and think you're winning the Heisman again. I don't even want to hear that. He better drop off top 5 if he doesn't win the game. Because I can't imagine Clemson's going to score a ton of points. I mean, maybe they only need to score 28, 35 points with their defense. Because the kid Kelly Bryant, I don't know. I mean, as good as Clemson's defense was, I just don't think. I don't know. I mean, I don't see enough on offense. As you mentioned, they lost so much on offense. I just don't see much there to help him out, and he's so inexperienced, and he's more of a runner than a passer anyway. He's got some capability in the passing game, but he really did most of his work on the ground last week.
Right, and I love Renfro, the receiver. I mean, he makes great plays, little guy, and Kane is their speed threat down the field. But I think, and hey, it's tough for a good quarterback like Bryant. Like you said, he's a runner, and he's just developing into a passer, and he doesn't have a ton of playing time or anything, and but hey, there's a lot of people that would argue that our Heisman Trophy winner from last year is a runner and not a passer too.
That's true. Yeah, I think if Clemson's going to have a serious chance, also, I think they're going to have to get some running game going. I mean, they do have this top high school kid from a couple years ago, Feaster. Maybe he could develop, or I know they also have Fuller, but I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I don't think they have enough balance too, because you did mention a few good receivers, and Ray McLeod's there as well. But they're gonna need to grow up together. Maybe the defense does it, but they also have to play at Virginia Tech in a few weeks. So it's and then later on in the season they do have to host Florida State, and they got to go to South Carolina, which isn't going to be easy. So it's going to be tough. And it's always tough also for the teams in the ACC, even though Clemson got into the playoffs last year with one loss. And maybe they'll get more respect this year. But with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, and I'm looking forward to that matchup. That could be a huge battle of undefeateds later in the year. It might be tough for an ACC team to get to the playoffs this year if they lose a game. NFL. So let's talk about some of these rookies, because a ton of rookies played well in week 1, which was nice to see. Our favorite rookie that we probably used his name more than any other rookie in the 2017 draft was Cooper Kupp. And I guess, I don't really like saying it much, but I guess we could say we told you so. So, I mean, this kid looked awesome already in week 1. They're already wowed about his ability. And this is why I pushed for him to be a first round guy, Because come on, I mean, who cares about the measurables? All this guy does is produce. He's a great route runner. He's a great player. He's a great performer. And boy, I don't think what I saw with the Colt game with the Rams offense was a fluke. I think McVay has already done a great job there. He's changed Goff's entire career. He's got receivers now. He's got Gurley. He's got Whitworth on the offensive line. And that offensive line, as you know, was a disaster recently. I think this offense is becoming legit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Although I will say this, I think I fainted when I saw him drop a pass.
Oh.
Tough drop. I mean, I couldn't. I never saw him drop a pass in college. And then when he actually caught the post, for the touchdown and everything, and then he dropped. And I think he looked at his own hands, because usually, receivers will look at their hands and say, it was my hand. No, it was you that dropped it. You know what I mean? Not your hand, because you don't have good hands. But Cooper Kupp's got ginormous, great hands. You know what I mean? And he didn't drop anything. But anyway, no, he had an outstanding game and everything. And then we'll transition right away to Galladay, one of our East-West choices there. That and he was at 6'4", and he caught 2 nice touchdowns in the preseason game. First game he played in the preseason game, and then of course the beautiful layout catch and everything. But I mean, at Northern Illinois, they just used him as a big target. In fact, we saw him live last year 3 times, so I guess it was kind of beating a dead horse, because we knew he could play and just liked watching him play.
Yep.
And he did a great job for the Lions.
Yeah, I know Jamal Murphy, our fantasy analyst, one of his favorite rookies was Tara Cohen, the little kid, little diminutive
Mr.
running back.
Pinball.
Yeah, and I didn't think I looked at the situation and I said, okay, well, maybe at some point in his career, he'll get an opportunity, or they'll be able to work him in. But then you look and you go, well, they got Howard and they got Glennon, so I'm not sure how he's going to get a whole lot of opportunities and they're going to be able to score much. But I guess because the receiving situation is pretty weak there, they're going to use this kid a lot, with Howard, and that makes a lot of sense, because this kid is pretty dynamic in that backfield.
Yeah, the only thing that worried me, when he was at North Carolina A&T, is he carried the ball almost every play, or they threw it to him. I was worried about his durability, in regards to being worn out before he even got in the NFL, because he touched the ball like 800 times. In college, and it was and he was just such a joy to watch. But he's probably littler than advertised, but he's definitely quicker than advertised. And he's if you look back on our report from last year, I think we even called him Sproles back then, and so now I'm seeing everybody call him Sproles. Well, we called him a Sproles when we saw him at A&T, and he's a terrific football player, and he is the style of back that everybody wants one of now. Whereas you had the bigger backs before, where it was a little more hammered to them because they'd hold up. But hey, this last few years, teams are drafting these little guys like Washington out at Oakland. And then you got Cohen, but then the next guy we're going to talk about, he can bring the hammer himself, because he's got 2 thighs like jackhammers, and that's Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. We touched up on him a little bit last week, and just like we talked about with injuries. Now, look, I don't know. Maybe he would have got the start. I kind of doubt it. I think if Ware was healthy, they would have started Ware. I'm not saying the Hunt would have got carries in the first game, but I think they would have started Ware. And this is why we talk about the injury situation with the quarterback. Sometimes when a guy goes down, it's better for you, because we know just like I think the whole Kelly thing with Washington's a nice story, but come on. Samaje Perine is so much more talented than Kelly. Now, all right, maybe, I don't know, maybe there's an issue with his pass blocking, or he's not picking this up or that up, but eventually, if anything.
He wasn't pressing the hole up there like they wanted him to. They said he was kind of walking on eggs a little bit, instead of really pressing the hole and pushing through and driving those legs. But he's a good back. He'll pick it up.
Okay, so with Hunt, he got his opportunity, and it was interesting because he fumbled to start his career.
First play of the game, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it was like, that really shows you. I think that shows you more than just about anything, is that he could fumble on a first play and have that type of performance. That just shows you how mentally strong he is.
Yeah, no, he's well. He started for 4 years there and was productive. Every game he got into, he could catch the ball. I loved him. He was our
Yep.
top senior back heading into the draft last year, and and I tell you the only thing about Hunt made me mad because I we're in a fantasy football thing for the family, and my computer froze up, and I couldn't get to him. I couldn't get to it
To select
draft him.
them.
Yeah, to select him, and somebody else got him, and I about flipped out because I didn't have it in the queue, but I had then. So when my thing came alive, I'd take Crowell from Cleveland, and there's a big difference between those two.
Sure.
But
yeah.
I loved Hunt, so that made me mad. But anyway, that's another story.
What about a couple other rookie running backs, Cook and Fournette? Cook has the big game on Monday night. And by the way, now look, I don't know, maybe I have to think about it a little bit more, but I don't think any team played any better than Minnesota all week. I mean, Bradford had the game of his life.
Yep.
We know how good they can play defense, and we know how good, and they were able to settle the Saints for field goals, and now they got a running game, so which we knew they would with Cook. So now look, I don't know if they can keep this up with Bradford, but they can go far. They could seriously be a playoff team, and they could seriously do something if they don't have injuries and they just continue to develop. And of course, Bradford has these types of games more often.
Yeah, no, Sam looked great. Like you said, it's probably his career game, and then Cook, everything was in sync because they were balanced, and you could see Sam more confident in the offense because last year this time he just got in there.
Yeah.
So now he's been in the offense for a year, and they threw to Rudolph, the big tight end. They used him some, so they just they've taken a big step forward, and Cook really helped them.
And Fournette had a nice game. He looked good. That's a tough Houston defense, and he looked good. Even though Houston's offense didn't move the ball at all. Look, Blake Bortles didn't do anything again, so eventually, I don't know. I mean, Jacksonville, that's just taking advantage probably of a few injuries, the offensive line, Dwayne Brown being out, and then, of course, maybe even we didn't really know what to expect from Houston in a way because sometimes the situation with the tragedy, it could work for you, and it could drastically work against you because they just have so many other things on their mind.
Yeah, I think that's. I was really surprised. I really thought it'd be an emotional. The team would be fired. Hey, JJ might have been exhausted along with his teammates,
Yeah.
and because it just, but hey, they'll have a chance to rebound. But I was happy with Fournette because we talked about pressing the hole with Perrine earlier, and Fournette pressed the hole, and he didn't get hurt. And now, I thought it was so funny when he came out during preseason and said, well, this isn't too bad. This NFL speed, and because he didn't get the picture. Somebody ought to put a great big garbage can on his head and hit it with a hammer a few times, let them bells ring up there, because he didn't get the picture that wasn't the NFL that he was playing with. He was playing the SEC in preseason. Now he's playing with the big boys, and he stepped up and got 100 yards. So maybe hopefully he's not on the injury list this week.
Yeah, that's the other thing you got to keep an eye on with a player like Fournette. But that's Tom Coughlin football, and they got the defense. That's Tom Coughlin football, and we talked a lot about their defense improvement. They did a great job in adding players on defense in the offseason and free agency and the draft the last few years. So I don't think the defense is a surprise. I think that's exactly what we kind of thought could happen. Now the question though is can they seriously win ball games most of the season with Blake Bortles? And because you just look at him right now and he's just damaged. I mean, this has nothing to do with talent. Not that. And I remember when he was drafted, it was one of those situations where we had talked about he was overdrafted, another quarterback being overdrafted. You could tell in college that, okay, he's a nice college quarterback, but how in the world is this guy a top 10 quarterback in the draft? But he hasn't developed, and you just wonder now whether or not mentally he's just fried.
Yeah, that's right. And, but we'll transition right to one quarterback that came back pretty well, and Marcus Mariota. And and Davis,
Corey Davis, yep. Big
Corey
catch,
Davis
good day.
did nice. He got an opportunity for some balls, and he looked like he's knocking off the rust from not being able to play much in preseason with that injury and late in the college last year and workouts and all that. But he looks like he's going to be the real deal.
Yeah, what is it about? See, look, I still think that if Tennessee is going to take that next step, that they're going to have to bring in a more accomplished coaching staff. I don't think this staff is going to be able to take this team where they want to go. But, I was watching that. Did you watch that Scab 30-30 for 30 last night?
Oh,
on ESPN?
I was busy working.
Okay.
I was working.
Did you tape it?
Sorry. No.
You didn't tape it?
I didn't.
Okay, because I tape all the 30 through 30s, and so they did the thing on the Scab year. It was basically from a Washington Redskin perspective, because the Redskins and what they did and won the Super Bowl, and the Redskins Scab victory over the Cowboys that year. And I was looking at the coaches that year. Bill Parcells, Joe Gibbs, and of course they had Walsh back then. And it was like Coach
Buddy
Landry.
Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm going, where are those coaches today? And it's no surprise that the Patriots keep beating the crap out of everybody, because Bill Belichick's sitting there and he's going, nobody can touch me. I mean, I'm at this level, and every other coach in the NFL, maybe put Pete Carroll somewhere close, but every other coach in the NFL is like at a completely different level. Where's the good coaching?
Well, I'll tell you what hurts is, a lot of those guys worked, 16 to 18 hours a day, and you can't spend any time with your players anymore. You know what I mean? Not that the players are on the field for 16 hours.
It's a different era.
And
yeah.
You can still, the coaches can still work in the office. But it's not Club Med, but it's pretty easy. It isn't training camp that you saw the Scab guys in. You know what I mean? They practice for 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, and they're coming off the ball and they're smacking live to live. They're not hitting some dummy ain't going to hit them back. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's hurt. And the guys are every bit as tough now, and they're every bit as more athletic, more in condition, more everything. But hey, they're stymied by rules.
As far as some of these other quarterbacks, I don't know how much you got a chance to see Kaiser. I thought Kaiser played okay. I mean, hey, it was a close game. I know Pittsburgh didn't seem like they had their best game, but I still kind of think that Cleveland's going to have a pretty good defense. I think Greg Williams is a heck of a coach, and he's got that team playing good defense. He's got talent on that defense. And if you have talent and good coaching, you can put something together. And so I think they're going to have some good defensive performances this year. But hey, I mean, it wasn't like he had an awful game. Not bad for Kaiser. It's not even a first-round draft pick.
Right. No, I thought well, you can thank Brian Kelly for that, because he was a first-round draft pick heading into the season and kind of fizzled out during the year. But Kaiser, you're right. I tell you what, he had a good showing. First time out of the blocks against a heck of a blitzing defense and things like that. So he saw, a real NFL defense first time, and he did some good things. And then we talked about Goff. Goff had maybe a little coming out party. I know the Colts weren't any kind of it didn't even look like an NFL team, to be honest with you. But they maybe Goff, though, he's playing Southern Cal again over there or something instead of the Colts. But
last year he would even if he would have played the Colts, he wouldn't have done well. He didn't do anything last year against anybody. So
yep. Yeah, Jeff Fisher never had a quarterback coach or coordinator develop a quarterback in life. So Goff he took a baby step. I'm not going to go crazy and put him in the Hall of Fame or anything, but it's a good first step. Wentz, we want to move into Wentz here a little bit, and I love the way he plays. I mean, he just gets out of trouble and he can stand in the pocket, and his eyes are always down the field ready to make a play. And he's so strong, he can break tackles. His first time out of the blocks, coming down there to the Redskins, and they came out of there with a win. That was a really good move.
All right, and a couple more things. Colts situation with Luck. So it looks like there's now talk that they might actually start Brissett, which goes back to our point from a few weeks ago, which is why the Colts have just, I mean, as good as I thought that their offseason was, Ballard putting that team together, the defense, and finally getting some defenders there. I don't understand how they can go into the season. Never did with Luck's injury situation with Tolzien as the backup, and they're Jacoby Brissett. I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, did anybody see him play last year? I mean, I don't care that they won that game. I mean, he was running around like a college quarterback. I don't get this. What is Jacoby Brissett going to do?
Well, mobility.
Okay.
You know, they're looking for some mobility because they can't block anybody. So, you know, but see, to me, what you do, you just back everything off. Now you make your quick 3-step drop. You know, go look at Brady, what he's doing in New England. You know, you gotta be able to get that ball out of there, and because you know your blockers are going. Manning was at you know, when he was with the Colts. Hey, I know Saturday just came up for the Hall of Fame. I want to tell you something. You go study him if he had to hold the block very long. Now he gets run over too. You know,
sure.
So but anyway, no, they wanted Brissett, you know, so he could duck the flying shrapnel that's coming at him.
Yeah, and that's probably why we're going to see Deshaun Watson tomorrow night. Same reason. And I guess Dwayne Brown just made about $10 million after 1 week sitting out.
Did he end up signing? He waited till after the the disaster, and then come back because he was going to make himself more money.
Yeah, so that was a smart move. That paid off. And but with Watson, yeah, look, I don't know what to expect from Watson this early in his career, but you know how I feel about him. I think that he's the type of guy that look, let's just put it this way. I think if he was on the Cowboys last year, I think he could have done the same thing Dak Prescott did. But he's in a different.
I don't know. Yeah, you have to remember now. Watson is a little bit thinner built guy. You know, you see what Dak. Like I said, I always preach that Dak was built like a running back.
Okay.
And he's a little more durable than Watson. That's the thing. See, Watson's got an injured ankle right now too.
Yeah, he's got to stay healthy. Sure. Mm-hmm.
You know, and I just, you know what, the number one ability is availability, and I love him as a player and everything too, but I just don't know if he'll hold up, and I'm not going to compare him to a guy that's as strong as a running back, and yet, because I think Dak is, I mean, he's a pretty tough rascal now.
Yeah, and Dak had a better offensive line not to worry about getting knocked around, even if he did. So Watson, hopefully that'll be taken care of with Dwayne Brown. And but as far as this game, I don't know what the Bengals did. I don't even know what that was. It's almost like we've been kind of waiting for that type of performance from this team and this coaching staff for a long time. They finally missed the playoffs. We all expect them to fire Marvin Lewis. Doesn't happen. He comes back, and then this. So this is not a good sign, even though I like Baltimore, but this is just terrible what happened. So both teams stunk last week. But you know what? I mean, I think Houston's like a 6-point dog. And even though Deshaun Watson, a quarterback, I kind of like the Texans because I think the Texans are a lot better than what we saw last week. And,
absolutely.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if Watson played halfway decent and decent enough with the defense actually coming through this week, though, for Houston.
Yeah, no, I agree. That wasn't the Houston team. So, but no, you're exactly right.
All right, so that will pretty much wrap it up. What are you going to be? 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks for the review?
Right. It'll be printed. The 2018 preview will be printed at the end of the month, and working on that now. We've got our scouts out there, combining their summer reports with getting some looks at these guys, and seeing who's playing, who's suspended, who hasn't played yet because of injury, and things like that. And compiling everything and getting just, a little peek in what's going to happen in 2018.
All right, Dan. We'll talk to you again next Wednesday.
Absolutely. Thanks a million, Greg. So long now.
Thank you, Dan. That's Dan Shanka, and that is going to wrap things up here. What we do want to let you know is that we're here every Wednesday at 4 Eastern through the football season. And you can check out our on-demand shows just within a few hours following every live broadcast on our YouTube or iTunes pages on the Prime Sports Network. If you want to participate on the show, you can send your tweets to @PrimeSN. And don't forget to check out Ourlads.com for the best NFL and college football depth charts. Thanks for tuning in to this PSN production. I'm your host, Greg DePalma. We'll see you we'll see you tomorrow for another Ourlads Football Network show, OFN NFL Preview.